Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Her phone buzzed face up, the message bloomed and froze. My thumb landed before she could blink. A heart sat after his name like a dare. I caught my reflection in the glass and pressed open. I knew I was already past the line, yet I pushed. I'm Mark, 34. She reached for the phone and missed. Give it back, quick breath, eyes on my hands. The screen showed 3 new bubbles forming. Something else wanted to surface, and I let it. Miss you tonight. No emoji this time, just night and certainty. Her chair scraped hard and set my nerves on edge. Work messages, she tried a shrug that wasn't steady. My jaw clicked once and the room tilted. I scrolled up, but the top had gaps. Whole evening's missing, just neat logistics in view. Storage, she murmured, palm open for the phone. I kept it away and held my stare. Delete marks leave cleaner trails, don't they? A calendar alert appeared like a trapdoor. Conference room booking after hours, 2 hours blocked. Her throat moved, then stayed still under my silence. We were prepping a pitch, softer now, eyes on the table. I tasted the lie without knowing the recipe. I tapped call on his number, it rang fast. A man answered with my name unspoken. Wrong number, crisp voice, no curiosity at all. The line cut before I could ask anything. Her fingers curled tight, knuckles pale with heat. Who is Ben? Project lead, she reached again and stopped halfway. Does your project miss you at night? The TV laughed from another room, intrusive and dumb. I kept my eyes on hers until they slid away. Nothing happened, she tried, the words thin. Then why hide the conversations? Because you overreact, her mouth trembled, then held. Because I recognize patterns, I answered, quiet and even. The word patterns made her blink, like she heard the future. She moved to the hallway, phone cord memory in her steps. I followed 2 beats behind, heartbeat in my ears. The bathroom door invited a lock and a story. She didn't take it, which almost fooled me. Almost means not enough, doesn't it? Back at the table, I set the phone down. Show me the whole thread, voice flat, hands calm. You have to trust me, her voice asked for mercy. Trust needs proof, I said, pulse steady on the table. Proof has a way of showing up late. She unlocked and scrolled, then paused on an empty day. I took the phone and checked, recently deleted. A curtain lifted, only Tuesday survived the purge. A selfie of them smiling, just shoulders and teeth. Her eyes flicked to the sink as if it swallowed evidence. Work friends, she whispered, the kind that stay late. I zoomed on the edge of his lanyard clip. Same badge I saw on her coat last month. Borrowed or shared, both felt the same weight. The weight asked me to move or drown. Tell me what this is. She pressed a hand to her chest like a pledge. We connected when things got hard, voice careful and rehearsed. Connected like colleagues or connected like hotel rooms. Her silence picked the answer and set it down. Just feelings, she tried again, a timid bargain. Feelings end meetings after hours. A new message flashed, no nickname this time. Parking level 3. Her breath broke on the number and mine steadied. I walked to the door and grabbed keys. She followed 2 steps back, bare feet silent and fast. You are making it worse, she breathed, panic close. I am catching up, I said, hand on the knob. Catching up felt colder than guessing. In the car, I watched the building directory glow. Her office floor sat above empty floors and locked doors. I waited outside in the wind that cut choices. 2 figures appeared, steps matched, bags too close. They saw me and recalculated like drivers at a cliff. Ben, I called, voice sharper than I planned. He stiffened, then stopped with a practiced sigh. She stood between us, small and stubborn. Let me handle this, she whispered toward him. No one handles a fire by covering my eyes. Is this your soulmate? I asked, words heavy and hot. Her eyelids fluttered, then landed in a yes I felt. Ben looked at me and didn't apologize. He looked at her like the decision had been made. Decisions are just actions with paperwork coming. Did you sleep together? She lifted her chin and didn't blink. Yes, nothing else, no padding, no fog. The night cleared like a drill alarm. I heard the rest of my life starting. Her yes still rang when I stepped forward. Keys my hand out, steady and close. She flinched, then dropped them into my palm. Ben shifted his weight like he owned her pace. I turned away before I did something reckless. End it now, I said without looking back. No calls, no messages, nothing. Silence stretched, then shoes scraped on concrete. A car door clunked shut behind me. I waited for an engine that didn't start. At home, I cleared the entry like a drill. Duffel open on the floor, clothes shoved fast. She followed me in, with slow, careful steps. We can fix this, small voice, hands hovering. Prove it, I said, zippers screaming like alarms. Delete his number, I held out my phone. She typed with rigid fingers and stiff jaw. I watched her thumb hover over the contact. Show me your block list, I didn't blink. She did it, then looked at the hallway like escape. Message him now, I kept my tone even. Tell him this ends and you choose your marriage. Her lips tightened, then loosened just enough. She wrote 3 clipped lines with no pet name. A reply came back immediately with a single initial. I read that letter and felt a switch flip. The duffel swallowed another stack without folding. Spare bed or I go to Nate S., I said. Please stay, she gripped my forearm with both hands. I stood very still and gave her nothing. I set rules on the table like tools. Full access to devices. No late nights. Location sharing on always. Her eyes tracked each demand like falling bricks. She nodded too quickly, which meant nothing. Tomorrow we tell your boss, I added. Her head jerked like I had slapped air. This could cost me everything, the whisper shook. I already paid, I answered and left the room. I stretched a blanket on the couch and faced the door. Each minute dragged nails across my patience. Footsteps approached, then stopped just short. Do you want tea? Soft and eager and scared. Water, I said, because I still needed control. I held the glass and didn't drink. Why him? I asked without raising volume. Her shoulders climbed and then sagged half an inch. He listened, breathy, like it was a gift. My fingers tightened around the rim until it creaked. You can listen now, she tried to close the gap. You earned silence, I kept my stare level. She swallowed, then placed her ring on the table. I'll wear it when you believe me again. The circle gleamed like a dare I wouldn't take. Morning hit fast because I never slept. I dropped her at work and parked out of sight. My chest waited for excuses to multiply. She walked in alone and didn't look back. I followed 10 minutes later with a calm face. Reception called upstairs and announced my visit. The HR door clicked and let me in. We have to report a boundary issue, I started. Her mouth opened, then shut like a caught hinge. The manager's eyes sharpened as if smelling smoke. Is there ongoing contact? The manager asked. Not after last night, I kept my spine straight. Show logs, the manager turned to her laptop. Keycard records appeared with neat timestamps and exits. After-hours entries stacked in silent agreement with me. The manager printed a form without comment. No retaliation, she warned like a trained line. We will separate teams during review. A meeting invite popped on a nearby screen. I watched my partner shrink under fluorescent truth. We stepped into the corridor without speaking. Her phone vibrated again like a mosquito that learns. She ignored it too slowly for comfort. Let me see, my palm up without warmth. One word waited there, just her nickname, stretched out. I scrolled and found a hidden thread folder. Different app, new icon, same pattern. My stomach hardened like a locked vault. I walked straight to his workspace and stopped. Ben stood as if he expected applause. You keep messaging after the cutoff, I said. He tucked his chin and smiled like a coach. Security arrived before I could step closer. They blocked us with open hands and calm voices. Take it to HR, one of them repeated. I lowered my fists without looking away. Ben adjusted his tie like a fresh start. I laughed once, short and unfriendly and final. Outside, I texted a clinic and booked tests. No drama, just deadlines and quick confirmation. Then I called a lawyer from my contacts list. Consultation set for late afternoon, payment up front. I felt something solid forming under my feet. At lunch, she hovered near my car window. Please eat with me, eyes red and alert. Not today, I kept both hands on the wheel. Prove change by telling his wife, I added. Her breath stuttered because consequences cut deeper than vows. We found her profile in under a minute. I typed 3 direct lines with dates. No insult, no theory, just facts lined like bricks across a doorway. A read receipt appeared, then vanished. 3 dots tried to form, then disappeared. My partner pressed her temples and whispered his name. I turned the engine on and let it idle. Something heavy in the air began to shift. The clinic drew blood and handed me a pamphlet. I tossed the paper without unfolding it. I scheduled a follow-up and saved the reminder. On the sidewalk, I finally exhaled without shaking. Fear left, but it left room for rage. Back home, I opened a shared bank app. Transfers told a story in tiny amounts. Coffee here, ride there. A hotel charge landed like a hammer on ice. I printed the statement and circled what Matt. Turd. She stepped into the doorway and froze mid-breath. Your honesty is late, I lifted the page. Her hands went flat against the frame like a stop sign. I placed the paper on the counter and waited. Last chance, I said, and even I believed it. No secrets, no edits, full timeline tonight. She nodded once, not twice, which meant resolve. Then we call your mother together, I added. Her face changed like she heard an alarm only I could hear. I opened a new note and started a ledger. Dates, receipt, screenshot. Each entry tightened a knot I planned to cut. I pressed record and set the phone between us. Start at the first message and move forward, I instructed. She closed her eyes and then began. New details spilled quick and sharp like gravel. I realized the worst hadn't surfaced yet. The recorder blinked red as she named dates. Keep going, I tapped the table once. Her voice thinned on the week of the client trip. Twice she whispered, hands pressed flat. My stomach tightened because once was already enough. My phone buzzed with a new alert. Unknown number. I got your message, call me now. I stepped into the hallway and hit dial. A steady voice answered and asked to meet tonight. We parked across from a grocery entrance. She arrived with a tote and no hesitation. I needed to be sure, she breathed, eyes on me. She placed printouts on the hood like evidence. His calendar, her screenshots, and one photo I dreaded. It wasn't a selfie. It was a reflection in glass near an elevator. 2 figures close enough to share air. My partner's hand tugging his sleeve. I felt something old snap and not return. I'll file tomorrow, the woman said, jaw set. I'm not here for drama, only clarity. She slid a folded receipt across the steel. A short-term rental paid last month. 2 names, neither of them mine. I looked up at the apartment number. The address sat 10 minutes from our place. Keys, I asked, and she passed me a copy. I made it when I found the lace, she added. Her eyes didn't blink while I pocketed betrayal. Back home, I asked one question. What is at 5th and Alder? Her legs gave a tiny shake she couldn't hide. Workspace, she tried, then looked away. I held the keys up until the lie died. We drove without speaking, windows closed tight. My hands stayed on the wheel like clamps. Upstairs, the lock turned smoother than conscience. Inside, I found a single charger on the counter, and a buzzing phone under a dish that wouldn't stop. I raised the screen and saw a second account. Different icon. Same number. Hundreds of texts. Her face collapsed when I scrolled past the kiss videos. I breathed in and tasted metal. Was this going to replace me? I asked. No, her mouth formed the word without sound. The chat showed move-in dates circled in cheerful emojis, and a list titled Essentials that didn't include me. Footsteps in the hall made both of us jump. The other woman entered and stayed at the threshold. He doesn't know I'm here, she said quietly. She held up her phone with a recorded call. His voice promised weekends here while we were out of town. I nodded and checked the drawers in rhythm. Not searching, just counting the beats of my pulse. A small packet rolled forward near the utensils. Prenatal vitamins stared back like a headline. My partner sagged against the wall and shut her eyes. Are you pregnant? The wife asked before I could. Silence filled the corners like smoke. Not sure came out barely above breath. How long off birth control? I forced myself steady. Months, she answered, the word clattering between us. I put the packet on the counter and stepped back. Clinic again tomorrow, I said, voice flat. We all test, then we plan. The wife nodded once, brittle but controlled. My partner nodded slower, like swallowing gravel. A new message flashed on the spare phone. ITA, from a nickname I didn't recognize. I showed them both the screen without comment. The wife exhaled through her teeth and checked her watch. Security cam in the hallway, she murmured, already dialing. We left the unit and locked it twice. Stairwell air felt thin and sharp. On the landing, I paused because my hands shook. I don't shake, not until my house becomes 2 addresses. In the car, my partner reached for my sleeve. I shifted away and found neutral again. We can still fix this, she tried with dry lips. You planned a move, I answered with no heat. Fixing something you replaced isn't fixing. At home, I lined the documents on the table. Lace copy, phone photos, messages with dates. I snapped each one and stored them in 3 folders. Her phone buzzed on the counter twice in a row. The preview flashed an appointment at a clinic across town. Tomorrow 8, the title read with Ben beneath it. I turned the screen toward her and waited for air. Her shoulders slid down like a tent collapsing. Ultrasound S. He whispered and finally cried without sound. The word erased whatever mercy I had left. Not because of a child. Because of the secrecy around a child. Because that choice pushed me outside the door. I picked up my wallet and stood very straight. No more under this roof tonight, I said. I'll call in the morning after the tests. She reached out and missed by inches. I left before I changed my answer. I slept on Nate's floor again without closing my eyes. The dark kept tossing questions at my head. Would I stay if the child was mine? Would I leave if it was? By dawn, I knew the truth would choose for me. I met her at the clinic door, wrist cold under my grip. No phones, a nurse pointed to a tray and waited. Ben stood 6 paces back like a brave statue. The other wife appeared behind him with set eyes. We all stepped inside because avoiding it changed nothing. Check-in took 1 minute because my mind moved faster. Screening for everyone, I told the nurse without blinking. She nodded once and printed bands that felt like verdicts. We sat apart while monitors clicked toward our turn. I counted the beats and prepared for the next blow. They called her name and barred the rest. Through the wall I heard nothing, which was worse. My jaw ached because I held it still too long. Ben shifted again and tried a helpful smile. The wife crossed her arms and filmed his shoes. A nurse opened the door and beckoned me in. "You're authorized," she said, reading the clipboard twice. An image flickered and the room went final. Early, the text said, measuring and marking with care. Her estimate pointed straight at the trip week. The air changed because dates do math without mercy. Ben's throat clicked like he swallowed a nail. I watched her stare at the ceiling and not breathe. The tech printed a strip and snapped off the edge. "Follow up in 2 weeks," she said, then left us staring. Outside, the wife stepped close enough to share anger. "Congratulations," she tossed at the man without warmth. He tried to speak and found no landing place. "Walk with me," I told him, door closing behind us. He came because the hall had only one direction. "That address ends today," I kept my voice low. "No messages, no secret apps, no parking levels." He glanced at the exit like a runner at the gun. "Or I file first and add your employer," I added. He looked down, then nodded once like a plea. We returned to find her alone by the chairs. "I'm going to my lawyer now," I told the group. "You can join later with your counsel," to the wife. She nodded, already drafting a plan in her eyes. Ben hovered, but the door swung shut behind me. The attorney spread the evidence like a chessboard. Temporary orders, exclusive use of the home, discovery. He ticked steps with a pen that never shook. "File now or wait for paternity?" he asked finally. "File now," I said, and felt my spine settle. He dictated a list I could actually follow. Freeze joint cards and create a clean account. Forward mail and duplicate essential records. Document contact in writing only from now on. I initialed each item because fear prefers structure. Outside, HR called while the elevator dropped. "Interim leave for him, transfer for her during review." A second later, my screen lit with a video. Lobby footage captured hands too familiar near the turnstiles. The wife sent a thumbs up and nothing else. I texted my partner one line with a location. "Meet at home with a neutral present tonight." Nate opened the door before she reached the step. He stood between us without saying a word. I led her to the table and placed the folder. "These are the terms until the hearing," I began. "No overnights outside, no private chats, no surprises. Access to the spare phone and verified schedule. Counseling intake if she wanted a seat at talks." She read each line with a growing tremor. "I'll comply," she whispered, eyes on her shoes. "Then call the apartment manager and surrender the key." She dialed and I put it on speaker. The office confirmed receipt and flagged the file. My pulse eased a notch because paperwork locks doors. Her screen vibrated with a new calendar alert. Ultrasound shared to the contact named with initials. I watched her delete the share and block the thread. I didn't praise it because survival isn't romance. She looked at me like a student waiting for grades. A chime sounded from the portal on my phone. Lab results posted for the first round of screens. I opened them and scanned for red lines. Negative across the board and relief hit hard. Then a note about follow-up windows kept my guard up. The wife texted from the curb with a simple update. He packed a bag and left her driveway slow. She locked the door and changed the pad code. "Tomorrow joint call at noon," she wrote. I replied with a single word that meant alliance. Night settled without silence because my head kept running. She hovered near the hallway and didn't dare cross. "Will you sleep here?" she asked, voice careful and small. "I'll take the couch until service is complete," I answered. Service meant papers, and papers meant a line you can't blur. I lay down with my shoes still on. Messages pulsed on mute like a distant siren. The attorney sent drafts with blanks for dates. I filled them and watched my name anchor paragraphs. At the bottom, a signature line waited like a cliff. My thumb hovered because final means final. If the child wasn't mine, this path stayed straight. If the child was mine, this path stayed straight too. I pressed the screen and felt the decision land. Tomorrow we would deliver copies, and then the real fight would start. I opened the door as the process server stepped. Ed inside. He checked the address, then handed her the packet. She held it like it burned through her skin. Consider yourself served, he nodded and backed out. The latch clicked and our marriage changed jurisdictions. She flipped pages fast until her breath hitched. Interim possession of the house stared up like a verdict. Supervised exchange for anything she needed from here. No overnight stays without written consent from counsel. Her eyes lifted and the fight finally arrived. A palet, she reached for my sleeve, fingers cold. Follow the orders, I answered, throat steady and hard. Compliance shows good faith for custody later. The word custody landed heavier than I intended. She let go and something between us let go too. My phone buzzed with the noon conference invite. 4 tiles appeared when the call connected. The other wife leaned forward with calm fury. Ben stared at the lower corner like it held mercy. My attorney gave a small nod and started clocks. Disclosure first, the attorney spoke like a metronome. I uploaded the lace and the payment trail. The wife dropped screenshots of hallway footage and chats. Ben rubbed his temple and asked for a moment. No one granted it because moments already ended. Paternity testing scheduled next week, the lawyer continued. Attendance is mandatory for all potential fathers. Ben's jaw twitched as if the word bit him. I watched my partner swallow 3 times without water. The wife wrote down the date and circled it hard. Temporary no contact between parties outside counsel, the attorney added. Violation triggers sanctions and possible contempt. Ben unmuted and started to argue, then stopped. A notification popped across his screen mid-sentence. Security badge disabled, effective immediately, review pending. We ended the call and her phone lit again. Unknown number offered a new messaging handle. Backup chat here, the preview suggested like a trap. I set the device on the counter and stared. Choose your boundary now or I will. She powered it down and slid it over. Take it, her mouth barely moving as she pushed. I sealed it in a bag and wrote the time. Chain of custody mattered because stories bend. Proof holds its shape when pressure rises. Nate arrived to act as witness for pickup. She pointed to a list of essentials and waited. I checked the clock and nodded to move it along. Nate filmed the handoff and read each item aloud. No one raised their voice, which felt stranger than shouting. At the door, she paused and reached for the ring. I'm keeping this off, she whispered, almost daring me. It isn't collateral, I answered and kept my distance. Her lips tightened, but she pocketed the band anyway. Small choices reveal bigger plans when no one's watching. The wife texted as I locked the deadbolt. HR elevated his case to misconduct, the message read. They found meeting room logs and private accounts. Then a second line followed with brutal precision. Also found a business trip he never had. I drove to my lawyer's office with copies. We signed a motion for exclusive finances. He added a protective clause for medical records. Expect an emergency hearing within 10 days, he said. I nodded once and he slid me a checklist. On the way out, my phone chimed again. The clinic confirmed tomorrow's genetics panel appointment. I forwarded the notice to both attorneys immediately. Document your arrival and departure, my lawyer replied. Clean steps make cleaner outcomes when stories collide. Evening brought a knock I expected and dreaded. Her mother stood with a casserole and a stare. "I'm not here to argue," she started, hands folded. "I'm here to see the papers," she hid. I opened the folder because sunlight kills fungus. She read silently, then blinked hard twice. "Thank you for guarding what she wouldn't," she managed. "I will drive her to every appointment." Her voice steadied and the casserole never moved. "Do not open the door to him again." After she left, I walked the perimeter once. No patrol, just habit, counting unknowns that still lurked. My phone flashed a new shared folder alert. The wife uploaded a voice memo from last month. His words promised furniture and a fall move-in. I sent it to my attorney before thinking twice. It fit the timeline like a puzzle piece. We added it to the evidence binder digitally. I logged the entry with date and source. Every brick tightened the wall I was building. Night pressed close while messages stacked in silence. One from HR scheduling my statement as witness. One from the clinic reminding to hydrate and rest. One from an unknown email offering to sell proof. I forwarded that scam to counsel and marked it archived. I lay on the couch and watched the ceiling. Not dreaming, just rehearsing tomorrow's traffic. No melodrama, only steps that lead to doors. The tests would answer one impossible question. My part was simple: show up and hold the line. I signed in at the lab while my pulse hammered. 2 kits, the tech gestured to a chair and gloves. Ben arrived late with a smirk that cracked fast. The other wife stood to my left like a wall. We rolled up sleeves together because proof doesn't blink. Swabs, vials, barcodes, the choreography moved briskly. Chain tracked end to end, the tech explained without flourish. Ben tried a joke and got silence that burned. My partner stared at the floor and didn't flinch. The printer spat labels like a countdown we couldn't stop. Results in 5 business days, the tech concluded and paused. I heard 5 doors slam inside my head. Next step is court, I answered to no one. The wife checked her calendar and held her phone steady. Ben backed toward the exit as if gravity tilted. Outside, he angled close with palms raised. "Let me talk to her alone," voice oily and practiced. I positioned myself between them and shook my head. "Counsel only," I kept it crisp and level. He retreated 2 steps and swallowed whatever plan followed. At the courthouse, the clerk stamped our file. Emergency hearing docketed for the afternoon slot. Nate met me there as witness and anchor. My partner arrived with counsel and avoided my eyes. The wife slid into a bench and tightened her jaw. We stood when the bailiff called our names. The judge scanned the petition like a scanner. "Interim orders remain," she concluded without drama. No direct contact between romantic parties pending findings. Ben stiffened as if wires tugged his shoulders. My attorney cued a motion for exclusive finances. He laid out transfers, receipts, and keycard logs. The judge read quickly, then nodded once. "Granted," she said, gavel tapping like a metronome. Every tap felt like a ladder rung I needed. Opposing counsel argued for conciliatory terms. Reunification later requires less restriction now. The judge raised a hand and ended it clean. Safety first, integrity first, clarity first. We sat down slowly because victory still cost breath. In the hallway, a sheriff approached with paperwork. "Protective stay regarding the side unit," he announced. "Locks changed by sundown, access revoked under penalty." The wife exhaled through her nose and nodded once. Ben stared at the floor tiles as if they'd help. Back home, I opened a secure call with HR. They reviewed findings and confirmed the suspension. An investigator asked me for a written timeline. I uploaded the ledger before the sentence finished. The status flipped to escalated while we watched. My partner knocked and waited with hands empty. "Can we talk?" she asked, shoulders small and tense. Nate hovered in the doorway and kept us honest. 3 minutes, I answered and pointed at the table. She sat, then slid a plastic card across the wood. "Insurance authorization," she whispered without lifting her head. "Add me to the prenatal portal now." I took the card and placed it in the file. "Transparency buys time," I said, nothing softer than that. She nodded once like it scraped her throat. Her phone buzzed with a new handle invitation. Backup channel with a sly little wink. I opened a recording app and captured the screen. She deleted the invite and blocked the contact. Nate marked the moment and stored the clip. The wife texted an update with brutal economy. He packed, then tried to enter with a story. She changed the keypad, then forwarded his voicemail. He threatened to explain everything at her doorstep. I sent it to counsel before anger rewrote it. Evening brought the investigator's follow-up interview. We walked through dates without padding or adverbs. Screen shares displayed hallway footage and calendar entries. The call ended with a terse acknowledgments page. Consequences had a rhythm and it was picking up. Dinner time came and went without appetite. I stacked documents and checked each signature. A shadow passed the front window and stopped. Ben on the sidewalk with a paper bag. I hit record and cracked the door 2 inches. "Leave the bag and go," I kept my tone flat. "It's vitamins and a note," he tried to soften. "Leave the bag and go," I repeated with steel. He placed it on the step and dared me. I kicked it toward the hedges and watched him blanch. Nate called the non-emergency line and logged the encounter. A patrol car idled once, then moved along. I emailed the report number to both attorneys. Documentation turned anxiety into tasks I could finish. Tasks beat panic when sleep ran thin. Night again, couch again, resolve again. My partner stood in the doorway and gripped the frame. "I will follow every order," her voice barely there. "Follow them for you, not for me," I answered. We both knew the difference mattered in court. Before dawn, the lab portal pinged an intake update. No results, only a timestamp and receipt code. I saved the screenshot and closed my eyes. 5 day. S felt like a cliff with fog below. Still, I felt steadier than yesterday. At sunrise, the wife called and did not tremble. "I filed my own action," she reported. "His counsel wants joint mediation next month." "Fine," I said and marked the date. We hung up without goodbye because allies don't need ceremony. When I finally stood, my legs didn't shake. I gathered the sign sets for morning deliveries. Nate grabbed his keys and didn't ask questions. We loaded the car in careful silence and purpose. I looked back at the door and didn't hesitate. We drove and the city opened into errands. Court copies, bank confirmations, mail forwarding acknowledgments. Each stamp sounded like another brick settling. By midday, the paperwork run was complete. I checked my phone and saw a new email. Counsel attached a draft for final dissolution language. No flourish, only terms that cut clean. I read every clause and reached for the pen. I signed because the future deserved an answer. Not an almost, not a maybe. An answer with edges and dates. The page curled slightly and my breathing evened. When I returned home, the porch was empty. No bag, no note, no audience, only the lock clicking once as the door swung shut. I placed the signed copy on the table and paused. The room stayed quiet like a held breath. I knew the results would land soon enough. Whatever they said, my route wouldn't change. I turned off my phone and let the silence hold.